Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. And everyone, hey, thank you so much for tuning into the program. Today on the show, we have NZ Technologies Inc. If you haven't heard about them, you're in the right place because we are going to be talking to the founder and CEO of the company about everything they do, how they do it, and more. You definitely want to stick around for that. And everyone, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. So before we get started, computeramerica.com, they'll have everything, including a link to our guests, any articles, any topics, any products, anything that we talk about here today. It will be available on our website for about the next month, and everything will, everything will be there ready to go. And well, obviously longer than a month, but it'll be on the front page for a little while. So, hey, just remember our website and you'll find links to everything that you need. Of course, there you can also find reviews, past podcasts. You can find the video, live stream, all that good stuff. And yeah, everyone's social media. So I think with morning announcements out of the way, let's go ahead and bring on our guest who's waiting oh so patiently, been really kind with me. So joining us on the show today is NZ Technologies, and just a brief overview. They're a technology company specializing in the design and manufacture of advanced human-machine interaction. And hey, really think about any machine and how you interact with it. Today we have some products involving like elevator buttons, for instance. Something so simple, but hey, a lot goes into it because you can imagine, tons of people just mashing it, kicking it, trying to be safe with it. Obviously, during a pandemic, there's a lot that goes into a lot of this. So everyone, let's go ahead and bring on our guest, who is Dr. Nima Ziraknejad. Hopefully I said that right again. And Doctor, welcome on to Computer America. How you doing?
Thank you very much, Ben. Very nice introduction. I'm happy to be on your show, and thanks for inviting me over.
Yeah, no, our pleasure. We're really happy to have you, and hey, I'm really happy that you could join us so soon. I know that the holidays are coming up, and I'm glad that we can get you in before all that good stuff. So let's. I gave a little bit of an overview, but I'm sure there's a lot more to NZ Technologies. Tell us a bit about yourself, about your company, and how did this whole thing kind of start?
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, thank you. So my name is Nima Ziraknejad, and I am the founder and CEO at NZ Technologies. We are located here in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is in Western Canada, just north of Seattle. And I'm very glad to be on your show today because I think I have some really nice stories to, tell to your audience about how we started this business and how we have been able to achieve some really advanced technologies and invented a series of technologies for touchless human-machine interaction. And this is where people would like to interact with machines, but they can do this touchlessly without touching surfaces or buttons. So I'm here, and let's get started.
Yeah, and I guess my first question is, kind of when this company was started, because obviously I think that cleanliness has been a thing for quite a while now, ever since they found out about germs, but it's been a renewed focus ever since the pandemic, kind of really kicked off in 2020. Were you luckily in a position to, kind of help people and help the healthcare industry in particular, or was this a company that was started due to the pandemic and the need for touchless technology?
That's a very good question. Let me answer it this way: that everything is started by understanding an unmet need in the clinical field, in the surgery room. And this was about 8 years ago when we, together with a group of surgeons at Vancouver General Hospital, we had this opportunity to work with them and collaborate with them on a technology which was needed at the time to solve their pain. So I can give you an example. So similar to all of us during our daily lives, we use Google Map, right, to pan the map around, zoom into the map to find our destination, right? Surgeons inside the sterile environment of an operating room and during minimally invasive operations or image guided operations, they do almost the same thing, but on radiology images, like on CT scan or MRI images. They need, for example, to zoom into a CT scan. They need to scroll over the layers of CT in order, for example, to find the tumor. And, that is when they want to map their, their tools, and they want to plan their surgery. But imagine a surgeons, they are scrubbed. They are in a sterile setting. They cannot use a mouse or keyboard, for example,
right,
while they are staying at the bed. So what options do they have? They either have to yell at a technician or nurse to, for example, bring up the image and, for example, do the zooming or scrolling, or most of the time what they do, they simply scrub out. They go to the control room right beside the surgery room, which is a non-sterile environment. They take their hand on a mouse and keyboard, and they, for example, do all the image navigation that they need. And imagine that now they want to go back to the operating room. They have to wash their hands again. They need to put a new gown and everything. And just imagine that. So this is taking almost 4 to 5 minutes every time. What a waste to the surgery time. What a waste on the workflow of the surgery. So, and sometimes they need to do this 5 to 10 times during a surgery, which is, not efficient at all. So with these surgeons discovering this problem in their operating room, in their environment, we decided to work together on a technology enabling these surgeons and medical practitioners with a set of touchless tools that they could use during the surgery to stay by the bed. They stay focused. And while they are scrubbed, for example, our technology, which we call it TIPSO, TIPSO is a product right now. TIPSO stands on touchless interaction with PACS in a sterile operations. PACS, of course, is a term in medicine. It stands on picture archiving and communication systems. So this, for example, product, as you can see in the video here, is a pad that surgeons put them inside a sterile bag, and they simply twirl their finger over this pad. For example, twirling, clockwise or counterclockwise, for example. They can do zooming in, zooming out of the image. So this tool, this technology enabled the surgeons to stay by the bed, by the patient, and eliminated the need for scrubbing out from the surgery room. So obviously, back in the time, about 8 years ago, this was a niche market. Nobody really knew, about this problem exists inside the surgery room. So it was way before COVID time. And it was, of course, the technology was developed for the purpose of surgery, for the purpose of the surgeons. And, going back to your question, obviously, in the past 2 years, starting almost 2 years ago when COVID hit, we realized the need in our society this is now time to bring this technology outside of the operating room. Right. Let's bring it and provide it to the general public, because there is a need for that, So, and I can explain more. If you want to,
and really it makes a lot of sense. So and that is, I guess, kind of the fun part, and even what we saw with the cure for the vaccine, or I'm sorry, the cure for coronavirus and the vaccine that's out there, is that it was work that was already done for years and years and years beforehand, being able to repurpose and being able to really strike at the heart of the problem. So TIPSO AirPad is seems like a very novel approach, and definitely like that it can be bagged up, because I'm sure that one of the big problems you had, it's one thing to make like a super sensitive mouse or touchpad, which we're still struggling with today, but your product has to be accurate inside that barrier of that kind of decontaminated bag. I'm sure that accuracy was very hard to achieve, and I'm kind of curious, how accurate has your medical equipment kind of gotten to this point?
That's a very good question, Ben. And in terms of accuracy, let me also add to that the robustness, because when you go to the surgery room, not only accuracy is important, but the robustness of the device is really super important, because there is no room for failure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you invent a technology for the clinical field, I think the hardest job apart from the invention is how you can build a product that withstand the environment of the surgery room, which is like, it could be, goes through like severe circumstances of like, different factors that can go wrong during the surgery, and your device has to withstand. So in terms of the accuracy, let me tell you this. AirPad, or what we call it TIPSO AirPad, this is the device that you can see in the background, is a pad. It's a battery-operated device. The battery lasts for almost 8 hours. The device itself, it works based on a proprietary technology that we developed at NZTechnologies, and it works by means of electric field sensing. What it means is that you can imagine above its surface, there is a dome. There is an imaginary dome of the electric field, electrostatic field, of course. When you bring your finger within this volume above the pad, the 3D position of the tip of your finger is detected in real time. And of course, the system can correlate your finger motion into different, functions. For example, if you want to zoom in or zoom out, you want to scroll in, you want to pan the image around. So all these finger movements can be detected by using a series of algorithms, particularly our artificial intelligence algorithm, machine learning algorithms that we have, in order to make this device usable, as intuitive as possible, easy to use. So that's very important for surgeons. Surgeons, they don't have time to mess around with devices and complicated devices. Things should go very simple. These things should be intuitive for them to be able to use, because their mind is over thousands of things during the surgery, right? So that is how TIPSO AirPad has become very useful, and we have done our best to make it as accurate as possible for the use of surgery.
So, and obviously, we have the video component, which everyone can check out, but we also are mainly audio with the podcast. So talk about some of the gestures, because, for a touch surface, I think people are familiar with phones, tapping and pinching and zooming and things like that. This is purely touchless. So what kind of hand motions do surgeons have to do to, kind of navigate with the TIPSO AirPad?
Very good question. So pretty much any interaction that us as humans want to do with a machine, it's either an on and off, or yes or no action that you can, for example, tap your finger in the air for that, like this, on off, like in the toggling mode. And when that function is enabled, for example, that's the time for adjustment, like zooming or scrolling or panning the image around. Just simply doing. Imagine, on the different handheld devices, you do the same kind of actions, but by touching the screen, by doing that. So TIPSO AirPad enables all these actions by just hovering your finger over the surface, and by using finger twirling, which is the most important action, or just moving your finger in a 2D plane, for example, you can pretty much achieve all you need to do for the purpose of image navigation or other controls of the operating room equipment.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's really it looks almost intuitive, and I didn't realize that there were actually gyroscopes inside, so that the pad itself can be tilted and panned and moved that way too. So
that's yet another mode of interaction. For example, the TIPSO AirPad is equipped with a set of gyroscopes in 3D, and as you can see in the video here, once you in different orientation when you hold this device, that motion in 3D can be interpreted, for example, to if you tilt it tilt it back and forth like this, you can do that again. Same thing for adjusting the brightness, like making it brighter or making it darker. Okay. For example, you can even move the image around or pan the image around by because it's a one-to-one relationship between how you hold this pad in your hand and how your target device is. It could be, for example, a 3D map of the heart or the 3D map of the brain. So once you basically move this device in the air and the turning it in the 3D volume, that same object is basically mimicking your hand motion. So that's how it's working.
Yeah, definitely saw the motion in like the 3D model of like the rib cage there that they had, and the fact that you can navigate, so fluidly with in a 3D space. That's very, very intriguing. And again, everyone, why we're talking about this is because this was kind of their flagship product, and then this helps them really move into the next phase, which is kind of what was introduced to us was the was HoverTap. So I think we're going to move over from TIPSO AirPad, and we're going to go ahead and switch on over to HoverTap. So talk about what was the need that you saw, because clearly you saw the niche need in surgery rooms. What was the need that you saw, and then how did HoverTap come to be?
Yes. So like you said, during the COVID, it's all about awareness. So us as people living in this society, for example, there wasn't much of there were some awareness, of course, about like a spreading of the disease or but the problem was that it wasn't really known to everybody.
Right.
During the time of COVID, that awareness was really brought into the public. That wow, these so-called high-touch surfaces are prone to diseases. They are prone to pathogens, for example, and there is a need to prevent the spread of disease by protecting ourselves from touching these so-called high-touch surfaces, right? So that was where the awareness came in from the COVID time, and that was where when we noticed the need for bringing this technology outside of the clinical field and bring it and make it available to the general public. Obviously, as you can see in the video in your background, the very first application for that was elevators. Because as you know, elevators is an elevator cabin or the hallway station is a surface that is being touched by a variety of people at many times during the day. And like just imagine a public place like a hospital, like airport, like metro stations, shopping malls, you name it, hotels, for example. Different people goes in and out from these elevators. Everybody touch it. It's not about COVID. It's about nobody really wants to catch a flu, right?
Right.
Why should I touch a surface that was previously touched by a person whom I don't know if he or she was sick, or if now this surface is contaminated, right? So that was when we noticed that there is a need to bring this out.
Yeah, and of course these these investments that I'm sure anyone who puts these in, not touching elevator buttons might be a great way to stop the next plague that kind of hits us, because these things are kind of gross to touch anyways. But I got to say that elevators are, I would say, a fairly daunting task, I would imagine, for a lot of touchless kind of companies, because accuracy. I mean, I feel like if people select 3, 4, 5 different floors by accident, man, that's not going to be an enjoyable user experience. How has your accuracy been adapting this from a medical situation to people who are not trained in technology like this?
Very, very nice question. In fact, this is all about when we talk about human-machine interaction, user experience and the process of designing a user-centered product is very important. So user experience is defined by defining if the device that you have brought into to life is easy to use and intuitive for people to use it, right? So, and that is why, like what I said, we hired a set of proprietary artificial intelligence algorithms based on machine learning. And the way it works is that obviously a person that they want, like you said, they want to basically hover their finger over this surface of the HoverTap to pretend that they are touching on a button, right? There is millions of ways for the finger to approach this HoverTap surface in order to tap in the air.
Right.
So the right way to do this is to teach the machine, is to provide a training mechanism to the machine to show how us as humans are willing to do these interactions with this machine. So the artificial intelligence comes into this point that the machine learns. As the more you use the machine, the more you give training to the machine, the better the machine gets and builds its model. So that's why this HoverTap technology that we have developed using the same database of user interaction modes that we developed for our TIPSO AirPad technology for the surgery. And all these finger twirling and finger movements in the air was perfected already for the use in the surgery room, and now can be adopted for the general public, for example, if they want to use it in an elevator cabin.
Right.
That's how the accuracy has been, increased, by building a database of almost like 8 years of data that has been collected by perfecting your machine learning platform to train the model that is perfect for the use now, for example, in the elevator, for example.
Yeah, and you could definitely see a use case where simply pointing at something and then maybe pointing at it with like another finger accidentally being off to the side and not poking the other one, things like that like you said, algorithm would eventually pick up on that. I'm trying to watch the video, although I think I missed it. I think there was like a 3D camera kind of mentioned here in the beginning, but then there's also a point here saying that there's no camera. So I think what I was kind of seeing there was that there are no cameras facing the hand, the people, that kind of thing. How important was it to, I guess, make people feel like they weren't being spied on? Although let's face it, elevators, I mean, there's cameras in there anyways, but yeah, no cameras. Why?
Yeah, so basically the main reason for cameras, there are few reasons, of course. Cost is one of the issues, because when you use a camera, of course, it's you're increasing the bill of material, the cost of that. Number two, like you said, is about the privacy. We don't want that people feel that they are being watched, or they are being spied over by of course you want to look at the finger, but you are looking at the whole face of the person. That's not what's happening here. And more importantly, it's about the need. We are using a set of sensors in this HoverTap technology that basically it doesn't need to have a camera, because as I said, it basically creates, and as you can see in the video here, it creates a 3D dome above the surface. Right. This 3D dome means works by means of like electric field sensing, and basically, when you bring your finger within this dome, that's all you need to do, because the tip of your finger, the position of the finger is detected in 3D, and that's all you need to basically perform the rest of your operation in terms of the detection and interpreting those hand motion or finger motion into the virtual clicking of the buttons on the screen.
Gotcha. And I'm kind of curious because, since, let's face it, it's winter, people are, kind of getting bundled up a bit more, maybe mittens and gloves and things like that. How sensitive is it to these, to people's electric field?
Very, very nice question. So in fact, our hand, our fingers, these are, almost 70% of our body is formed by water. And so our hands and human body is a conductive object, okay? And that's the beauty of the physics here, that it works, that when you bring your hand as a conductive object near this field, no matter if you wear a glove or if you cover your hand with anything, the electric field can still penetrate inside your glove or that, and it can basically still detect the conductive object, which is your hand, for example. So that's why, if you use a camera, suddenly that glove or that covering suddenly it becomes a confounding factor, a disturbing factor. But electric field, the beauty of that is that it doesn't, it's blind to objects other than your hand.
Yeah, and I was just reading your page here as well, saying that any lighting condition, and that's a big problem with cameras, getting perfect lighting and shadows and things like that. Your system is not affected by lighting or things like that. Yeah.
So basically, that's a really good point. But in the elevator cabin, of course, the lighting is pretty much controlled. Right. But having said that, HoverTap, the elevator is just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, there is a variety of other applications.
Well, and let me jump in here because one of our chatters was going to ask specifically, and I was going to work it into a broader question a little bit later. But since you're bridging it, he was asking about maybe things like public transportation or even personal cars. What other fields, including automotive, do you see a potential for HoverTap?
Yeah. So basically, okay, let me explain first by what is HoverTap. HoverTap, as you can see, maybe if you have the image on our website, you can show. This one. This HoverTap is it basically it comes in a picture frame form factor. You can imagine a picture frame, right? So any display, any LCD display or monitor or surface that is prone to touch, or is if you want to convert that surface into a touchless surface, this picture frame form factor can simply sit atop that very surface. And suddenly that surface, that LCD or that display becomes touchless, because then when you bring your finger in that volume above that surface, the tip of your finger is detected. So now imagine for the elevator industry, as you can see in the video, we enabled them to use it in the elevator panels.
Right.
Now imagine ATM machines, imagine airport kiosks, imagine a gas pump station. There are a variety of machines around us, that they have these displays on, and we have to touch those displays or touch the keypads on these machines. But HoverTap can be simply imagined as a picture frame that can go sit atop that very surface and convert it into a fully touchless device.
And just thinking about some of the other applications, I'm kind of curious as well, and I'm sure that you've done field tests, and we'll talk soon about kind of real world application and how it's been received. But I'm sure that this leads to better durability. Like I'm sure things break less when people aren't punching them or even just lightly touching them. Over the course of a couple of years, even just basic touchscreens will start to fail. I'm wondering what the failure rate is of something like HoverTap and the sensors that you have versus something that is a high touch point.
Yeah, let me give you the answer of this by giving you an example. In the elevator, for example, right, there are other technologies in the elevator that enables touchless interaction with the buttons. But nearly all of these technologies, they are working based on a device that is protruding outside of the surface, meaning that the device has to be installed on top of the surface, and it has to protrude it out by an inch or 2 inches. Okay, suddenly that becomes a problem, because it will be prone to somebody hit it, somebody punch it, or there are a variety of things that can happen. The beauty of HoverTap that you can see in this video, it is completely flushed with the surface of interest. It basically, the whole sensor mechanism, it basically sits behind the surface. In the case of the elevator, you can see there is basically a really rugged plexiglass lens, which is flushed with the panel, and the sensor sits behind this. But the 3D field, the 3D electric field, is still available. Of course, it cannot be viewed by a naked eye, but and even non-naked eye.
Right.
So it's electric field, right? So it penetrates out, and it can be used like that. So that is one of the key features of HoverTap, that it can be installed flushed with the surface of interest.
Speaking of install, though, that can also be a pain point where if it's hard to integrate, if it's hard to, I know the elevators, they're very complex, but at the same time, they're also pretty retro. They have pretty antiquated systems. I'm curious, how hard is it for HoverTap to be integrated into different systems, not just elevators, but just in general?
So, that's a really good question. As I said, we are basically building the HoverTap hardware in a way that you can see in this video is simply like a picture frame. Imagine if you are a manufacturer of an LCD monitor, or if you are a manufacturer of a display monitor, this device can simply sit around the display that you have. In the case of an ATM machine, for example, or like a gas pump station, or like an airport kiosk, a check-in kiosk, this thing can just sit atop that very surface. It's a very thin device. It's like maybe a quarter of an inch, and it can sit above the surface, and it just suddenly converts that surface into a touchless surface. That's as simple as that. So in order to be able to integrate it, there are two ways. Of course, there is retrofit, that you basically retrofit this sensor above or on top of the surface, or doing, for example, an integration. Using an OEM approach, working with a display company to basically integrate this device or this sensor within their panel within their frame and everything. So there are many ways of doing this integration.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of these applications that you're talking about, we kind of have a question for maybe a little sarcastic, not that we don't care about, kind of usability and accessibility, but those without, with some kind of disability, maybe they can't, bring their arm up or they can't touch the screen. It also integrates with, and a lot of the use cases you've said so far, they don't replace existing interfaces. So if someone needs the previous way, I mean, you kind of get both, right?
Absolutely. We had this video in your background that the buttons are still there. This device is basically, it could be imagined as a redundant, the device, or an auxiliary device, what we call it. That, because we are in an era, like, almost 30 years ago or 25, 30 years ago, when touch screens, came to birth, right? Yeah. It was a new thing, but nowadays, everybody knows about touch screens. So now we are in the era of introducing touchless technologies, HoverTap. And of course, it takes time for all of us to learn how to use this, how to get used to it. So until this transition is there, pretty much the existing modalities of interaction are still existing, particularly in the elevator, which is the sensitive environment, because as you said, people still want to sometimes have the traditional way of interacting with the machine.
And really personally, I'm so for this because I spend a lot of time cleaning, even just in my house or, my devices, my keyboard, for instance, although I don't think I'll ever have a touchless keyboard. That might be a little bit too far for me. But, things that just, let's see, in my home, we have like lights that are controlled by, kind of wall panels and things like that. Not having to scrub those down every couple of weeks would be just, this technology makes so much sense because, hey, just build up durability, dirt. I mean, it does seem to be the future. So, which is my way to kind of segue into how has the application been. Clearly, you have your AirPad that has worked in in the field. How has this technology? Have you installed it in an elevator? How have people responded to it? Have people just said, "Oh my God, that's awful"? Or
yeah. Okay,
what happened?
So let me. Okay, I answered this question just in a moment, but let me explain something. Really, you mentioned something about the durability. Okay, that's very interesting topic. Let me talk about that for a moment. You go to an airplane, right? There is the seat back display right in front of you. So that's one of the nice examples of like those displays inside in the airplane in front of you when you sit. Those are subject to a lot of cleaning. The crew have to use the cleaning agent to clean it, and every time they do that, particularly now, they are subject to wear and tear quite a bit, because they have to, wipe them, they have to clean them properly, sterilize them, and things like that. But when you have HoverTap for a display, for example, for the seat back display entertainment system in the airplane, that is where the durability of the device comes into effect. That you can have, you don't need to use so much of cleaning agents. The life of your device can be extended. So that's now. Going back to your question about how happy people have been and where we have installed HoverTap Lift. Yes, obviously I need to mention that the very first place that we installed HoverTap in a building was at the Ronald McDonald House here in Vancouver, BC. Really? This is, of course, this was at the peak of the pandemic. Of course, parents, they had to go to visit their children at this wonderful facility at Ronald McDonald House. And, you can't avoid parents going to this building, to this facility to visit and be with their children. So there was a huge fear about infection and touching surfaces. So that was where we the house, the Ronald McDonald House, they notified us about this demand that they had to convert their elevators into touchless. And that was the very first I would say luminary site, which we call it, to install the very first version of the HoverTap in that building. And we are very appreciative of their understanding. And of course, we are so glad that we were able to bring this technology into a space that not only was very helpful for our technology, but also helpful for our society. That was basically the real manifestation to show that, wow, this technology cannot be used even outside of the surgery room, and it can be useful. That's the most important things that we were talking to the parents, at this facility, and they were really, really delighted to see there is this technology enabling them to touchlessly go to different floors and no need to touch. They could basically get out of their car from the parking, they get into the building, they swipe their hand over on the hallway button, they choose the floor touchlessly, and then boom, they just go to the room that their child was there. That was amazing. So that was the very first prototype. The real commercialized version of this product, as you can see in this video, of course, we developed that together with one of the biggest elevator fixture manufacturers in North America by the name of DuPont Controls. So obviously, us as a technology company, as a manufacturing company in the medical field, we needed to have a partnership with an elevator company. And this was when we were successfully able to sign a manufacturing agreement with DuPont Controls. They are located in Toronto. Of course, they are a subsidiary of a company named Dewhurst in the United Kingdom. Mm-hmm. And we have had a wonderful engineering collaboration and manufacturing collaboration with their team. And the video that you were showing is pretty much the very first version of this HoverTap device that could go integrated inside the elevator panels. And the very first place that we installed it just recently, because it took us some time to do all the code requirement, all the engineering design and everything, right, to be able to put this device in elevators. City of Richmond here in British Columbia was the very first public place that adopted this HoverTap device for their elevators. And now at this time we are expanding our portfolio in installing in even more and more buildings, here in Canada and internationally.
This definitely feels like a bit of a 1.0 of like the smartphone, or the 1.0 of well, it's on my mind because someone in the chat room mentioned a laser keyboard. But yeah, no, this feels like a new technology that just makes a lot of sense. And just at this point, it's about adoption and refinement and getting it there. And I believe someone else mentioned a microphone. So you have a no camera, kind of policy with this. Not that it's needed, but also to keep people from being weird about it. But any indication, because if you're already using algorithm, that means that I'm sure that machine learning has you've mentioned that you have used machine learning. Speech and speech to text, that kind of thing is huge with machine learning. Has there been any idea to kind of shift this to voice as well?
So that's a really good question. So obviously we have used voice for our medical products. And it has been effective in the discrete commands, giving like the on and off, yes or no commands. But when it comes to elevators or devices outside of the surgery room, obviously there is a whole problem of like the noise within the environment, the chatter in the background, or like how accurately you can detect different accents, different volumes, and it hasn't been really effective to use voice control inside the elevator, although it's not impossible. It's possible, but it's all about the ease of use and whether even you need to do that. What is so unique, or I would say especially all about HoverTap, is that everybody is so used to use mechanical buttons. Okay, we all know how to use mechanical buttons. It's push in and push up, right? Or just push in. HoverTap is the same exact thing. You don't need to do anything extra. It's just you just do the same action, this time in the air. It's just hovering, just tapping your finger in the air. You are resembling the action of clicking a button.
Right, yeah. The exact same motion that you are replacing it with is, used in the exact same motion that, you're using your product with. I'm actually curious for people who have, I'm sure that you have your logo there, but, I'm sure that there's probably not a user manual right above it, trying to teach people. Do they realize like when they're reaching for the button and then they like press it and then it's already pressed, like they stop and don't touch it?
I'm happy you mentioned this, because when we talked about electric field sensing and the volume, the term to use is proximity sensing. So it's all about proximity. When you bring your finger within the vicinity of this surface, there is a user interface. Basically, there is a graphics on the display that changes its color. So the closer you get to the surface, for example, the screen gets greener. And it's basically an indication that, oh, you're approaching this surface. This is where we mentioned about the machine learning part, that because the system is learning, and as we speak, and that the finger is approaching. Of course, it has a model to follow, but still, going back to your question, yeah, there is a visual feedback that is given to the user. This visual feedback is really effective to tell them, hey, you need to. On top of that, we have signs. We have like labels right above the HoverTap display. So hover your finger, for example, or you don't have to touch. So, or for example, in the case of the hallway station for elevator, swipe up, swipe down in the air. So these are basically some language or labels that you can use to guide the users to properly use this. And of course, as I said, this is new. We are expecting, we are doing a lot of education, in the public, and I mean, your show is wonderful. That's another example. Like, we are basically making this awareness about nowadays there are touchless modalities that you can use in the public, and that is how they work.
It makes all sense in the world that if we have adapted this well to touch screens, it's time to go to touchless screens. That just seems like the natural evolution of the technology. And hey, you have 8 years ahead of everyone else. Sounds like you've been positioned really, really well for this. So we talked about some of the other sectors, and I'm sure that another one is in like cars, for instance. They have more and more. We have infotainment systems, and I'm sure that being super accurate with your touch while you're driving and distracted driving might not be the best thing in the world. I'm sure that cars. You've had some conversations with car manufacturers about your technology as well.
Yeah. In fact, I must say that in terms of the automotive industry, I did my PhD in electrical engineering in the automotive field. And in fact, I must say that back in University of British Columbia, when I did my PhD thesis in the automotive industry, the demand was for to use, basically, this is where you can use electric field sensing sensors to be placed inside the headrest when you sit in the car. And the idea is to detect the position of the head, and basically automatically adjust the position of the headrest to mitigate the risk of whiplash injuries. Because if somebody hits your car from the back, your head has to be restrained with a device. Right. And that device is what? Is a headrest currently in the car. But what we did, like at UBC, University of British Columbia, we designed this headrest, that it was automatically adjusted itself behind your head using, electric field sensing. So that is yet another example of how this technology could be used for detecting, human body parts, for example. And that was, in fact, a very nice example of that. So that is exactly like that.
Right. Yeah. And hey, you're right. We've been talking about buttons and screens and stuff, but hey, there's a lot that we interact with. I'm sure that, that you really crack that open for me, because there's a lot that we touch, or, a lot of things that we can adjust that your technology would really, would really excel in. And hey, it's just how to make our technology filled world, which everything is getting technology in, a little bit more user friendly. So I'm looking forward to a lot of that.
So like I said, this is the HoverTap, and it's used for the elevator. It's just the tip of the iceberg. There is unlimited application. There is no limit to the applications in industry. Take it from the keypad, take it from pretty much anything, any surface that people are using in airports, like checking kiosks, or pretty much like ATM machines, like gas pump stations, even the traffic lights. The traffic lights is a simple push button, right? Even that could be equipped with our HoverTap swipe sensor, and people can now use them touchlessly.
Yep, and it seems, and I was just kind of poking through your press releases, and one of them was, of course, your partnership with Dupar Controls, and being able to build more of these things. It does not seem like a small task, but hey, partnering and doing that kind of thing seems very, very important. Actually, that might be a good little aside. We have very famously in our news segments been following the chip shortage. How much of a headache has everything been for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it hasn't been a huge issue for us at the moment.
That's good.
Because But and the main reason is because we have made a good inventory of our parts in the past. But moving forward, hopefully we are hoping that this problem goes away in a shorter time. Hopefully, if it's possible. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. So obviously, CES 2022 is coming up here soon. We're going to have a lot of coverage of that. I'm kind of curious. Are you going to be displaying at CES? Or are you going to show off in other parts of the U.S.? Yeah. When are you crossing the border?
Yeah. So actually, I'm happy you asked this question because there is this new trade show that we are going. Of course, new for us this year is what they call it a self-service innovation summit. So self-service innovation summit is all about kiosks, is all about user interfaces, is all about machines that are in charge of interacting, with humans, or humans in charge of interacting with these machines. So this year, this show is happening in Hollywood, Florida, and we are going to have a really nice booth number 110. 110, and we are actually going to we are a sponsor at this event, and we are going to demonstrate a very nice set of demos of our technology, of our HoverTap technology for different applications. Take it from the wayfinding, for example, in the shopping malls, airport kiosk, like the elevator display system, and this show is a wonderful place to really go and search for even more applications of HoverTap. And I'm sitting on a panel. I'm sitting on a panel for germ-free. This is basically it's a really nice panel, hosted by Holo Industries, and we are discussing about like how we are going to really revolutionize the state of human-machine interaction with our AI-powered touchless technologies.
Yeah, and just looking at the guest list here, and we'll go ahead and throw a link in the show notes to this. I'm sure it's a little niche, I think, for a general audience, but hey, why not? It doesn't hurt to talk about things like the Self-Service Innovation Summit. But casinos, obviously CES 2022 is held in Vegas. We went there a number of years. Oh my God, all of the touch surfaces in a casino, everything is kind of meant to be touched, and everything has to be wiped down and cleaned. Man, you're right. This has so many applications, and man, you are going to be busy. So luckily,
that is correct. Yeah.
For sure. So thank you for answering that. Looking forward to that. And hey, maybe in a number of months, later next year, come back on the show, tell us how things are going. Love to definitely catch up on this. I'll let you go ahead and have the last word. Is there any part of NZ Technologies or HoverTap or anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think pretty much you covered everything, Ben. Thank you so much. What I want to add here is that we are in the beginning of this journey. It's a new era for democratizing touchless interactions. Of course, we have a track record for doing this in the medical field, and we are even expanding our presence and our operations in the clinical field as we speak. But we are really looking forward to enable the general public with more and more of this technology that enable people to touchlessly interact with the so-called high-touch surfaces. That's our mission. Our mission is to prevent infectious diseases. Our mission it's not about pandemics. It's not about COVID. It's about how respectful we must be to our friends, family, people in the society by not touching the surfaces, because this is important. This culture has to be built in every one of us to be able to respect others in order to avoid and prevent the chance of spreading diseases and reducing the risk with spreading these diseases.
I definitely love that you worked, obviously respecting others into that. That's a great lesson that we can take away from this. And I think that overall, your product, and more so what I love talking about on the show, is not just individual products, although that can be fun, but technologies behind the products. And there's a lot more to come from this. And I want to thank you so much, everyone. Dr. Nima Ziraknejad, there we go. Sorry, a bit of a stutter, but still, thank you for coming on the program. It was pretty short notice. You set this up, and thank you for being so patient with me at the beginning of this. I think it all worked out really well. And hey, we'll include a link to your website in the show note. If anyone would like to check more out, you can go to NZTech Tech.ca, so NZTech.ca, and hey, go ahead, give them a look. And Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the program, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much, Ben, for inviting me, and I wish all the best and safety for all the audience and in this show, and wonderful. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. So everyone, once again, you can check out Computer America, and we're going to go ahead and sign off. So Doctor, I'm going to go ahead and end the call and wrap this up, but thank you so much, and I'll be sure to email you in just a bit. So have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, everyone, and we're going to go ahead and kind of wrap that up, and we're going to do... Hey, look, music right there. We're going to wrap that up. We will continue the live stream in about in a little bit, because this is going to be the podcast. So in a bit, we'll have another podcast recording with the one, the only, Mr. Ralph Bond. If you are a longtime Computer America fan, then Ralph Bond is likely one of your favorites. He's a great guest, and looking forward to that. So everyone, once again, computeramerica.com. That's about it. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. And stick around. We'll be back.